Y dos. Y dos. Una. Y dos. Una. Y dos.
Hello and welcome to Cortes NYC Livestream, the podcast. This show broadcasts twice a week out of New York City. We are your hosts, Cortes NYC
and Carla de Puerto Rico.
And on the show, we talk about art, creativity, city life from a Latino perspective. I'm a visual artist.
And I'm a singer.
And this is episode finally 53.
As always, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and Spotify, and also on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr.
And always remember, I have an online store, cortesnyc.bitcartel.com. I have original art, stickers, posters, and graffiti pins on there for you guys to collect and help support an artist. And special shout out to all the people on Instagram following us, all the people on Podbean, iTunes.
On Facebook, thank you for the shares, likes, and keep listening.
All the cops are coming after us.
It's because we're gonna speak very serious topics. Controversial.
Let's not start so controversial. We're gonna start easy. Let's start. I thought I would talk about some of the people that are coming to New York. They might come to visit. They might want to see some art in New York. We have a lot of museums.
Yeah.
I figured I would talk about some of my more favorite places to go visit, museums that I like to go to, and maybe I might do that on the next couple of episodes. So this first episode for this little grouping, little series, I think would be cool to talk about the Met, because I think the Met is a museum that I've gone to the most in New York. I'm sure a lot of people out there have gone to the Met a million times if you're a New Yorker. I think, like, I know John Smalls loves the Met. He's a member of the Met, and you know, he's always posting and you know, images of him going to the latest exhibit there. You know, the new exhibits that open up.
Yeah.
And you know, it's actually it's a huge museum.
Exactly.
I don't think that anybody could come see it on a visit
in just one day.
And one day and see everything and take it all in. I'm sure you can't even probably walk the whole thing
in one day.
Unless you just run.
Exactly. You're like, oh, like doing your cardio maybe.
Right, if you're running through it maybe. Let me start with just a little introduction of like the Met's history. The Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art of New York. They call it the Met. It's the largest art museum in the United States, with 7.6 million visitors in 2016.
Wow.
It was the third most visited art museum in the world. The fifth most visited museum of any kind.
Wow.
Its permanent collection contains over 2 million works. So in 2 million works, I'm not going to talk about 2 million works in this podcast. I'll talk about a couple of my favorites, but and not even my favorites, just a couple that pop into my head.
Yeah.
But no, there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, in that museum. It's divided among 17 curatorial departments. The main building on the eastern edge of Central Park, along Museum Mile in Manhattan, is by area one of the largest art galleries. A much smaller location, the Cloisters at Fort Tryon Park in Upper Manhattan, contains an extensive collection of art, architecture, and artifacts from medieval Europe. On March 18, 2016, the museum opened the Met Brewer Museum. That's the one that John Smalls was telling me about. So that opened in 2016, and this is on Madison Avenue on the Upper East Side.
Okay.
And it contains the museum's modern an extension of the museum's modern and contemporary art program.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think I still have to visit that that extension, the Brewer. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
So this museum is huge. I'm gonna highlight just some of my, not like I said, not my favorite, but just some of the pieces that I think stand out to me. They have painting, they have sculpture, and they have cultural things, right? So.
And religious themes too, because the Cloisters is all dedicated to the Catholic Church and everything else.
They have like, for example, they have the Islamic art also, the Buddhist art. They have art from all different cultures from around the world, and religious or not, and that's like really amazing because under in one day it feels like you travel the whole world.
You have a history class in one day.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with just a couple of pieces. Let me just start with, in the painting section, there's a piece by Velázquez. The artist is Velázquez. It's a painting. It's a Spanish painting. It's called Juan de Pareja. It's dated 1606 to 1670. It's an oil painting. Here the description is: Velázquez most likely executed this portrait of his enslaved assistant in Rome during the early months of 1650. According to one of the artist's biographers, when his landmark of Western portraiture was first put on display, it received such universal acclaim that in the opinion of all the painters of different nations, everything else seemed like painting, but this alone like truth. Whoa, pretty big review, huh? Months after depicting his sitter in such a proud and confident way, Velázquez signed a contract of manumission that would liberate him from bondage in 1654. From that point forward, Juan de Pareja worked as an independent painter in Madrid. Wow. That is pretty interesting. So, so basically he painted his slave, right? That's what that's what I just read. Yeah. And then freedom after I guess he kind of like brought him out to the public, right? In that way, presented him in that way as I guess back then it was not normal, I guess, to paint to make like a almost like a royal portraiture
of your servant.
So what I find interesting about this painting that always stayed in my head, and if you guys look it up, just look up Juan de Pareja Velázquez, and that's how you'll find it. What I find interesting about this painting is the subject, and it's just shocking that it's so obvious, that he was his servant. But I mean, the guy's look is like he's got an afro. He's got a little fro. Yeah. He's darker skinned. He's got a mustache and a beard, like a goatee. He looks, when I see this painting, when I was young and I first saw this painting, it stayed in my head like he looks like a dude that I'm riding the train with. Right. He looks like a guy that you would find in the street. Out of the whole museum, you're seeing all these like Greek and Roman and this and that and these Aphrodites and these heroic, white figures or dudes with big beards, white hair and big beards. And then you come across this one painting and he looks like your people. Exactly. He looks like people that you know. And to me he always looked like I associated him like he looks like a Puerto Rican guy, or he looks like a
Dominican.
Yeah, like his look. It's like it's amazing. So, and then you see that it's like painted so well. It's painted so detailed. If you look up close, the texture, the brushwork, everything about it is a masterpiece of work. But the subject, the person, if you just take him out of his fancy clothes, like those old style clothing, right, and you just look at his face, if I were to just crop his face, you would know what time period this guy was. You would think it was now. Exactly. And I think that's what stayed in my head. And like I said, the date is 1606.
Wow. Yeah, that's
400 years ago.
That his face, the image of his face is timeless.
It's timeless, and even the mood in his face, even the attitude of his face. Right. Because he could have had a different attitude, but even the mood captured in his face is a mood that you see now. And there's just a lot. Some people go crazy about the Mona Lisa.
Exactly.
I go crazy about this piece. Like, this is a piece that I could look at and talk about the expression on his face. The side eye that he's giving you.
Exactly.
A slight smirk to his lip, like he's giving you a slight attitude. Very interesting piece, and that's in the Met, and that always stayed with me. So shout out to Velázquez. All right, the next piece that I want to talk about. This is a sculpture that I came across in the Met. Like I said, I go there many times. Every year, at least I'll go once or twice. Yeah. And I walking through the sculpture, because the little sculpture gardens that they have, the little areas that have a lot of sculptures. I think it's the Greek or the Roman, and I'm always looking for subjects to draw, because that's one of my new pastimes, is that I'll go there and sketch. I won't leave without filling at least a few pages of sketches.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for a new thing that I haven't seen yet or that I haven't paid attention to yet.
Right.
And sketching these things actually makes me memorize them. And it's actually interesting because it really does spark your curiosity further when you sketch, art, instead of just walking past it like it's a decoration. And so one of the sculptures that I came across that just stood out to me, and I sketched it, and I really found myself like captured by it, is a sculpture called Ugolino de la Gerardesca. Ugolino de la Gerardesca. Actually, the name of the thing is Ugolino and His Sons. That's the name of the actual name of the piece is Ugolino and His Sons. But it's depicting Ugolino de la Gerardesca, who's a character from Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
This is the story behind this character is in the story the Pisan Count. So he's from Pisa. The Pisan Count Ugolino is sentenced to die in a tower prison with his children and grandchildren. So they imprisoned him in a tower with his children and the grandchildren. He is depicted in this sculpture at the moment where he considers cannibalism, because he's locked in with his sons and his grandkids to die and starve in a tower. And in the story, he considers cannibalism. Now, it says here, and I don't really know the Dante's Inferno, but it says here that it's never been, stated clearly, like, did he eat them or not?
Right.
But the sculpture shows this main figure, like typical Greek or, Roman or Greek, powerful looking face and like very stern and very
detailed in the muscle
the anatomy, the muscles, a lot of wrinkles and folds and tension in the hands, tension in the face.
But his expression though,
he's got his hands up against his face, like, that feeling when you just want to tear your skin off, like you have that anxiety and you want to it's anxious, right?
Like frustration also.
Yeah, and it's not, now I understand why he's got his hands by his mouth. And then he's got his sons and his grandkids all around him, like holding on and clinging onto his body. And that's something that I didn't really understand before. Now I understand it. They're basically starving and they're asking for help, and he's actually thinking, should I eat these kids or not?
Exactly. That's crazy.
That's pretty cool. I think the piece is something that it's pretty big. It's well displayed. You could walk around it in the museum. It's you could walk all 360 degrees all around the piece.
And you see every detail.
Every angle, yeah. It's actually really, it's great to draw. I like drawing it and I like sketching. I think what attracted me to the piece was the multiple figures. You have all these figures kind of wrapped around each other and intertwining. You know, their arms and the legs and all this stuff and the different expressions and postures that they have. But based around the central dominating figure, which is the father or grandfather in this situation. So yeah, it's actually a really good piece. This is Ugolino and His Sons. You guys should go check that out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And what's did I say when it was made? I probably didn't.
No.
So in the 1860s. All right, so the piece was made in 1860s. That answers that. But yeah, all right, so that's a great piece. Next piece that I'll talk about here is, and I don't know why this one stays in my head, and this is going to seem like a weird one for you guys, but there is a painting by the artist Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres. He's French. The dates here are 1780 to 1867 for his life. The date for the piece is about 1851. It's an oil piece on canvas. The title is, it's basically a portrait of Josephine Eleanor Marie Pauline de Gillard de Brassac de Béarn, Princess de Broglie, Princess de Broglie. Josephine. So one more time, this title. You guys ready for this? She sounds like she got a Spanish name. She's got like 5 names. Josephine Eleanor Marie Pauline de Gillard de Brassac de Bern.
Wow.
It's basically a portrait of here's the description. Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres, the neo-classical French artist par excellence, painted his masterpiece toward the end of his life when his reputation as a portraitist to prominent citizens and Orleanist aristocrats had been long established. Pauline de Broglie, the model, sat for the artist's final commission. Ingres, the painter, captures the shy reserve of his subject while illuminating through seamless brushwork the material quality of her many fine attributes, her rich blue satin, and that's what stands out to me. Her rich blue satin and lace ball gown, the gold embroidered shawl. So it's all about the clothing. It's all about what she owned, her material clothing.
It looks like you can actually feel.
Yeah. The silk damask chair, together with finely tooled jewels. So the description is all about all the stuff in the portrait, the chair, the materials, the dress, all that stuff. And I know a lot of artists are going to be like, you're an idiot. Why do you think this is so great? It's just a visually appealing, dumb portrait.
Yeah.
But if you were to look at this painting up close in person, every single time I go to the Met, I walk past it, I look up close, and I'm like, I can't believe this dress. And I look at the details, and it's brush marks. It looks, if you look at the photo if you Google the photo, you would think it's like a very smooth and finished painting. But if you look up close, you see the brush marks.
There's structure.
The strokes, the texture of the paint.
The texture.
Yeah. So it's a really good illusion.
Wow.
You know, that it's so smooth and detailed and polished that it doesn't look like a photo, but it looks like a beautiful sculpture. But then you look at the details and you're like, wow, that's really amazing. Like, how did he capture that lighting? He captured the shimmer of the satin in the dress and the materials. Her skin is like soft and powdery, you know, kind of like
this part of the dress.
Oh yeah, the shoulder.
The shoulder of the dress. That's amazing because it's like transparent almost.
Oh yeah.
And you can feel the texture of it. Like if you have seen dresses that are that type, you can almost feel the texture of that side of the shoulders and the details in that shoulder. But it looks amazing. Yeah,
no, that's a great piece. Again, I apologize to anybody out there who's into like deep dark subjects or modern art, but this one stands out to me. Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres is the artist. All right, moving on. Let's go to the Temple of Dendur. The Temple of Dendur, and I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, Dendur. The Temple of Dendur is, I think, the most iconic display in the museum, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The Temple of Dendur is in the big giant salon with the windows. You know, you get the natural lighting in. It's like it looks like a, what do you call that? Like it reminds me of those rooms where you keep plants.
Oh yeah.
Like a garden, like
un vivero.
Yeah.
En español, algo así.
Yeah, it looks like one of those, like, you know, enclosed outdoor garden things, but they have glass to enclose it. Yeah. Because you feel like you're outdoors, but obviously you're indoors with the glass, right? And you get a lot of natural lighting, so it gives you the illusion that you're walking through the actual ruins.
Yeah, exactly.
As if this museum was built around it.
That's why I like that part of the Met, because it's almost like escape from the building.
Yeah.
And then you're like in a different world.
Exactly. An interesting fact about this piece. So this is a Roman period temple, from Egypt, from Nubia. It was awarded. It was given to the United States by Egypt in 1965. I was born in 72.
Wow.
I didn't realize that you would imagine that it's been there for 300. Like I said, you would imagine it's been there forever. That we built the museum around it.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think that they transported that over here. I don't know how many things like that are happening still in the United States, cultural things like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I think this was a time period where people were more worried about or concerned about society and culture than now. I mean, I don't know if that's a positive thing or negative thing. The positive is it makes you travel. right? Because now you have to go out. The idea now is that you go find those places.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say, that now it's easier to go and see the places firsthand.
Yeah.
Versus maybe at that time they wanted to give people an experience and go to a museum and see it.
Correct. This is actually the story behind the bringing of this over here. This whole museum, the Met, is that they needed and wanted to bring culture to the people of the American people.
Yeah.
That was the themes behind all this stuff. Is if the people aren't leaving to go find these things, maybe at that time we were very, as we are doing now, very enclosed in our own little country.
Yeah.
Everything is America, America, America.
Yeah.
And so they figured if we don't bring the art to them, they're never going to go look for the art. So we got to bring it to the people. And they brought things like this to open people's eyes up to other cultures. Yeah, and art. And I think they did it. I don't know. I'm speaking for myself, but I think they did a good thing because, yes, it fuels your imagination.
Yeah.
It drives you to think, what would it be like to see the actual thing?
Yeah.
To go out there and see other temples like this. Just a description of the temple. It's two little structures. You have an entrance, and then you have like this back structure, and they display it, I guess, to try to recreate what it would look like over there by displaying them separately and at a certain distance. When you walk in, it's pretty tall. It's you feel, and it's not even the biggest temple ever.
No.
But it feels big, so it also makes you think of and imagine what are these other temples like that are even bigger.
Exactly.
The interesting thing about this piece, obviously because it's iconic, it's been there since before I was born. It was brought there right before I was born. But it's been there forever, and in my imagination, it's been there forever, and it's iconic to the museum. They have events, and this is, if you look it up, Temple of Dendur, and then you look up, and you just write in images, right, Temple of Dendur, Metropolitan event, and then you'll see a ton of events where they have classical music performances, they have dance performances. I saw some things where they have like Bali dancing.
Yeah.
In front of the temple.
That's awesome.
It's awesome, but it also makes me think how interesting. It's a temple that is used to have religious connotation. It was a cult temple, and now we're still having celebrations in front of it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It kind of fuels your imagination a little bit, to the human condition that we understand that it's a temple, and in a temple you should be having performances, music, dancing,
other type of art.
Yeah, it's interesting. But so that's one of my favorite pieces, just because of the nature of it. It's an artifact. It's huge. It's iconic.
It's interactive.
It's interactive. You walk through it. Exactly. So that's that one. All right, and so now let me wrap it up with this last one. The last part that I'll talk about here is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art is the pre-Columbian section. When I was a kid, I probably wasn't so. I guess I wasn't so curious about it.
Into it.
I would probably walk past it. It would just look like a bunch of gold to me and a bunch of like old little statues and pottery.
Yeah.
And I just walked right past it. And I knew what it was because my family used to make jewelry back in Colombia, and they would do little versions of these little icons. They would do the cheap version of the icons. The pre-Columbian, Mayan looking and Inca looking figures.
The representation of gods.
They were just like natural things. They would have like a frog, a warrior, a this, a that, and what they call anthropomorphic figures. But they would do them in silver and in gold, small things with a little emerald in it, because that's like the symbol, the rock of Colombia. So I always was familiar with the pre-Columbian art and the idea of it. So when I saw it, I would always think of my family. I'd be like, boom, got it. That's from my family. But if you go check it out in the Met, they have a whole section. It's humongous. The area of the art of the Americas, and it has everything from Peru all the way up through Mexico, all of South America, all of Central America. It has pottery, sculptures. Like I said, it has little jewels and emeralds and rocks, and also golds and silvers and all that. I think I've sat there sketching that stuff at least now like 4 times. It doesn't get old. You know, I look at it and now I guess I'm more curious and I really look at the details.
Yeah, and it gives you an idea of what our ancestors made. Sometimes when we listen to the history, it's a little bit watered down. Like they were just warriors, they loved nature, and that's it. But
right, they were either mystical or warriors, or they just were a little tribe somewhere just surviving in the jungle.
But it was more than that.
Yeah,
they used to trade. They used to make, like you said, jewelry and everything else to survive. So it gives you a sense of power of your culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it opens up your eyes and it opens up your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's the details that drive me. How they forge these things without there was no manufacturing plants or anything, or you know, and they were using tools that they made to make tools.
To make
things. Like they would, So it was interesting. First, you make the tool, and then you use that tool that you made to make something else.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things stay in my head, and then like the fact that it, you know, some of these things that are made out of gold and precious metals, that these people were doing them for art, you know, using these expensive materials for art, and that's always interesting.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So the Met, what do you guys think? I'm sure you guys have gone there. Some of you guys might think it's boring, but a lot of you guys probably think that it's, you know, interesting. I always confuse it with the Natural Museum of Art, the Museum of Natural History. Yeah, the Museum of Natural History is another big one, but the Met is better.
Estás haciendo todo igual, no tiene ningún color el paso que hace. Separa menos tiempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 y 10.
Culture talk, Carla.
Yes, culture talk.
So what do you got for this culture talk? What are we going to talk about?
So we are recording this the day after the midterm elections in the United States. So I wanted to talk a little bit about elections and maybe give you an overview of how are the elections taking place in the United States, and also some of the groundbreaking wins that we got in these elections, midterm 2018.
Right. Out of the results, we got some good results.
Yes.
And some results. I mean, we wish we would have had more, but.
Exactly. But okay. We'll go over it.
All right, go for it.
Yeah.
Dale, I'm not going to stall you any longer than I have to.
Thank you. So, elections in the United States are held for government officials at federal, state, and local levels. At the federal level, the president is elected indirectly by the people of each state through an electoral college.
Okay.
So, what does it mean? So, an electoral college is a body of electors selected every 4 years with the only purpose of electing the president and vice president of the United States. So basically, these people represent the whole population of the states, and the states are the ones that decide who's going to represent the state and maybe the requirements that they need for these people to be part of the electoral college.
Okay.
And then the federal elections, which is the one that we're talking right now, is for the congressional and presidential elections. So basically, in the federal elections, you are electing the people that are going to represent you in Congress, in the House of Representatives and Senate, and then also you are electing the person that is going to become the president of the United States. So when it comes to the congressional elections, which means people that are going to be in Congress, there's two different parts of Congress. It's the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Okay.
So the Senate has 100 members that are elected for a 6-year term. And
damn, 6 years.
Yes. And the states choose how to elect the senators. So it's more like a state effort to decide who's gonna be the person that is gonna represent the state, basically.
Okay.
And then the House of Representatives has 435 members. I didn't know it was so big.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
435 members that are elected for a 2-year term. So that's why the House of Representatives is almost as, I take it as, the House of Representatives is like a high school, and then when you go to the Senate, you are in college.
Okay.
It's a good way to see it. And so we have the federal level elections, right, which are every 4 years. And then also we have the midterm elections, which are the ones that just passed last Tuesday. And these are general elections held in November every 4 years near the midpoint of a president's 4-year term of office. Federal offices that are up for election during the midterms are members of the U.S. Congress, including all 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives and 33 or 34 of the 100 seats in the U.S. Senate.
Okay.
So what it means is that for the House of Representatives, we're electing everybody in the midterm elections. So we want to make sure that they're doing their job, and maybe if they're not representing our voice, to change them.
Right.
And then for Senate, we are electing 34 or 33, and I believe that's it depends on the state's regulations towards a candidate that we have in Senate.
Okay.
So in addition to that, each state select, depending on the states also in the regulations, we select the governor and other officials that are gonna serve under the state's laws, rules, regulations, everything else. And basically that's my overview of the elections in the United States.
Very, very technical, Carla.
Yeah, very technical, but
Wow.
getting more into my experience with the elections in the United States, I can say that they're totally different from my experience in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, it's a different type of election. It's every 4 years, and then we have the primaries right before the every 4 years election, basically.
Okay.
And then there's nothing else. And I'll say that it's interesting how politics are played in the United States. It's almost like a sport. Everybody, I think now more than ever, everybody is aware of it. Everybody wants to see who's gonna win. TV stations, they have special programs through the whole day talking about the elections and who's winning, who's not.
It's like sports.
So it's like sports, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a baseball game,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. And coming here to New York, the first time I voted was for the primaries for the Democratic Party, which was Bernie versus Hillary. And then I voted for the presidential elections, Hillary
And you voted
versus
for Trump.
Trump.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. What about you? What do you remember about elections? Do you think that it was something that you thought as important growing up, or
No, not at all. When I was growing up, I didn't want to vote,
no?
and I didn't care about politics. I was one of those people that was like, the system is broken. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. Why vote? I remember my father always telling me. My father would always tell me, like, you know, every vote counts. Your vote will count. You should vote. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, you should vote. Like, even if you don't believe in it, you should still participate. And I don't know. It took me a while to finally start to vote.
Yeah.
It took me a few years to really get into politics and into voting. I think a lot of it has to do with coming out of, you know, my memories of politics is like, you know, Nixon and Carter and scandals and presidential scandals and stuff. So, you know, I think by the time I was paying attention to politics, and it was like Reagan, and then Bush.
Yeah.
Like I was already like, I'm over it. Like it makes no difference. It's always going to be the same thing. It's always going to be the same situation.
Right.
But I think by the time Bill Clinton came around is when I started like, my eyes started opening up to politics, and I started realizing that there's more story behind it, and there's more to it, and that things could, within the bad there's good, and I started seeing those things, and I think once we had Bush Jr., the second Bush in office, I really realized, so it can go bad too. Like it can be really bad. So it can be like some bad and some good, and then it could just be just straight bad.
Yeah.
And then from there we had Obama, which was like amazing. It was like it was a real blessing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that we really had a real president that really deserved to be there and really cared about people.
Right.
And then we're here where we are now. where it's just ridiculous, and it's just, we went from, I had never seen such a bad president. I've never seen such a bad human being in office.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
And
you would figure somebody who's got so much baggage and so much drama in his public persona, you would figure that person would be removed from the media and removed from public office. Like, you would imagine that people would say nope, and they would yank him away, but instead they put the camera on him.
Yeah.
And they want to hear more,
Yeah.
and they want him to talk, and they want him to say crazy things, and they, and it's like they want to keep going.
it's like the drama that we need in our lives. I
Yeah.
don't know why. But talking about presidents, did you know the details about the Electoral College?
No,
I
heard about it because I think it was George Bush, the younger one. There was like some poll fiasco with him. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Yeah, that was the first time that there was like a whole scandal about the ballots, the voting ballots being rigged and miscounted.
Oh, wow.
And there was like, I think it was in Florida, I think, that there was like a whole miscount, and it cost the election.
Yeah.
Like there was a miscount and this and the other, and they started trying to investigate, and then eventually people just said, just let it be. And just let it go. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess because there was no solution, and nobody's ever, I guess they never had a plan for like, how do you handle this?
Right.
You can't keep the country waiting. Like
Exactly.
you need to know who's the president.
Who's the president? Yeah.
So in that situation, I heard about electoral colleges. I heard about that it's not just the votes that count.
Right.
But the details and exactly how it works, no. I mean, you explained it right now, and I was still lost.
Yeah,
I was listening to you, but I'm like, I can't even follow it. It's just complicated.
Yeah. So from what I understood from the information I read and I shared with you guys, it's basically a group of people that each state selects, and then this group of people are the ones that are gonna decide for the president. Even though we do have the popular vote, that is the vote that everybody makes when they're going to vote for the president.
Right.
But then, in order for the president to win and vice president, they need to have at least 270 votes from the Electoral College.
Oh, I got you.
So for me...
So they got to have votes from the popular and also from the electoral.
But for me, but in presidential elections, they put more emphasis in Electoral College, which for me, it's kind of weird, because then why are we voting? If you're going to have these people deciding already, what's the point of us going to vote? I mean, I'm going to keep voting, don't get me wrong, but I think that there's something needs to change about this Electoral College, which makes everything super confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm sure it was probably introduced as a safety net.
Yeah,
Maybe there was a time where this was a way, having an electoral college was a way to have some safety net to, I don't know whether it would be protection against corruption or protection against the system not working or a miscount. Or I don't know what it would be for, or that the public would vote for somebody that really was ridiculous.
Right.
Maybe they felt like, have some sort of system in place where if they happen to vote for somebody who's really not in the interest of the government, we can like have them not be president.
But then we had
right now they did the opposite.
Exactly.
They didn't protect the country. They threw the country, they threw a monster at the country. So
but,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there is something about it that is not right and does not make sense with modern times. I'd like to see more technology involved in this process.
That's what I was going to say right now. I also was having a conversation with a coworker. She was telling me the same. I don't believe in the system. I don't believe that voting really counts. And she was giving me her explanation of why isn't that the government is including technology on it. Like, people can easily vote online. They can have an app voting, and then you can enter maybe your social security number and vote. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think technology should be helping us, and I think if anything, they're fighting it. They're trying to keep it low tech.
Yeah, so that they can.
Thinking that could be, well, I mean, their excuse is that technology could be hacked.
Right.
But, we're still worried about it either way, so why not just go with it?
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, some hope that we're having after these midterm elections 2018 are the groundbreaking wins that we got. The majority are for women that are going to represent us in the House of Representatives and Congress. And I will start with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She became the youngest.
Won.
Yes, she won. And she became the youngest woman elected to the House of Representatives.
Nice.
Which is amazing. She made history. She's Latina. She is genuine, which I think is awesome.
And how old is she?
29.
29. Wow.
Yes.
She's young.
Yes, super young. So I hope she keeps representing us. Then we have Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
Probably not.
They became the first Muslim women ever elected to Congress.
That's crazy.
So that's also awesome. I think that type of representation is needed in Congress.
Especially right now. Like,
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because and more exactly with all the misinformation,
slander, racist remarks, like
defamation.
Yeah, like I really hope that, I mean, seeing I know that your list is a lot of women of color, but seeing that they're going to be not just women but women of color in the room.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to keep with this rhetoric, with this negative, rhetoric, or are they going to start to adjust their views to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's going to be interesting.
So also Sharice Davis became the first openly gay Native American that flipped a red state to a blue, and she's going to the House of Representatives as well. Then we have Deb Haaland, also first Native American women in Congress. Jared Polis, the first openly gay man to win a gubernatorial election, and he's the governor of Colorado now.
Oh wow!
So that's awesome too. Ayanna Pressley, she became Massachusetts' first Black Congresswoman, and for the first time, over 100 women were elected in the United States House of Representatives.
Crazy.
So
that's a big game changer. I mean,
it's inspiring.
It sounds like a game changer. I don't know.
We don't know exactly how this is gonna play out, right?
Yeah.
We don't know if they're gonna give them the voice, because what I'm thinking is maybe some Democrats that has been there for the longest, they're gonna maybe take advantage of their place there and be like, we are the ones that rule the House of Representatives. But I hope that they can be strong enough and that at least they have a space to say at least one thing,
Well, I mean, that was something I was thinking about, and people were talking about is now that the Democrats have won back the House, how is that going to play out? And I personally think because politics is politics and business is business, that now that there's going to be a majority of Democrats, some of the Democrats that might have been feeling the pressure to be working only with their party's favor, might not feel that pressure anymore because they'll be like, well, there's more than enough people here, so you don't really need me to stick my neck out for you.
Right.
I can vote either way on certain things.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be a thing of like, not, we need every single person, but they'll be like, well, you need the majority, and we're already the majority, so maybe you don't need me. And then that might turn into a thing where you might have some of the Democrats flipping and not holding onto their party line. Right.
Because they don't need it anymore.
Because they don't need it, and they'll be like, well, then if I don't need to do this and I can get some favors on the other side, why not? You know what I mean? I can have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I feel like I could see that.
I think that they're gonna do that with the progressives in Congress. The Democrats that are, let's say, democratic socialists. Right. And they will like to implement something new and something that they're afraid of.
Exactly.
They're gonna be like, no, you just came here and no.
That's the thing that I think, once we get past this whole issue of like the Republicans and Trump and all this nonsense, once we get past all this, maybe in the next 4 years, we're going to be dealing with a new issue, which will be Democrat on Democrat issues.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's a huge, this midterm elections was amazing. The turnout was great. When we went to vote, it was packed.
I think it was packed then.
Yeah, it was packed. There was people there. It looked more busy than before. And it was exciting to watch. It was exciting to see that everybody was so into it. People around my job, everywhere, people were like really into this voting. So I was like, wow, this is a really good sign.
And it's important for us Latinos because we need to make our voice heard, and now we have more voices in the House of Representatives, so we should be able to just be part of our civic duty.
Yeah, I mean,
go out and vote and
just be involved. Be involved and show your face, because if you don't even show your face, they're not gonna acknowledge you.
Yeah, because if you don't vote, then it's basically them saying, so it doesn't matter if we don't do anything for them.
Exactly.
They don't vote anyways.
And hopefully some of these changes might help Puerto Rico.
Yes.
In these next couple of years, right?
Yes.
All right, guys. So I hope you guys voted. Hope you guys are out there letting your voices be heard.
You wanted me to teach you, right? This is street reality.
Hablando español, Carla. I hope you have some words for me.
Yes, I have words.
You have words for me?
How do you say interactive?
Interactive. Interactivo.
Oh,
I feel like we said this one already.
We did?
I don't know. It feels like we did. All right. Interactivo.
How do you say celebration?
Celebration. Celebración.
Yes.
All right.
How do you say museum?
Museum. Museo.
Yes.
Museo.
How do you say satin?
How do you say what?
Satin.
Satin?
Satin.
Oh, satin.
Yes.
Satin.
Satin.
So how do you say satin?
How do you say satin?
Satin? I just said it?
No.
No satin?
No.
¿Qué es?
Seda.
Oh, Seda.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's that
Satin?
material, super soft, super
Satin
luxurious.
Is called Seda. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Satin is
Seda.
Seda. What's silk?
Seda.
No, it's two different things. Satin and silk are two different things. Always gotta throw you up. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, let's keep going. How do you say dress?
Dress. I think we did this one because there's different words for that. All right, so dress, it can be vestido,
Yes.
but it could also be traje,
Yes.
right?
See, but at least you learned. Okay, how do you say cannibalism?
Which one?
Cannibalism?
Cannibalism.
Cannibalism.
There you go. I was like, cannibal. It's like, what is this?
Cannibalism.
Cannibalism. Okay, how do you say cannibalism? Canibalismo.
Yes. How do you say?
You basically said it in Spanish.
I know. How you say slave?
Slave. Slave is esclavo.
Okay.
Alright, and
How do you?
I have a news flash for you.
Ugh. What?
So, silk
Mm-hmm.
is
It's
seda.
Mm-hmm.
Satin
Yes.
is satín.
I was confused.
It's good that you're here on this Hablando Español. I teach you some Spanish. You learn Spanish through me.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys.
This is super
For
great.
all you fabric connoisseurs out there, you designers, you fashion designers
Yes.
who know about textiles and want to know how to say it in Spanish. So satin in Spanish is satín.
Yes. Satín.
And silk is seda.
Seda.
Very good. All right, move on.
Okay. How do you say
Yes.
House of Representative in Spanish?
I'm going to do the literal translation. I
And
don't know
it's
if
not that.
All right, so I'll just do it and just throw it out there. But so literally House of Representatives would be Casa de Representativos.
Or representantes.
De representantes. And it's
Yeah.
not
No.
Casa de Representantes.
No.
No, what
We
is
call it Cámara.
it? Cámara, that's camera.
Yeah, but we call it in Puerto Rico Cámara. Because basically it's como una recámara. So, la Cámara de Representantes.
Recámara? I don't even know what
No,
that
we
is.
don't know. We don't say recámara. Recámara es como un cuarto in Mexican.
What?
Recámara is like a
room?
Like a room in Mexican Spanish.
A chamber. Nah, that makes sense. Okay. So Cámara is like a chamber.
Yes. So we call it
the chamber.
yeah.
Like the chamber of Congress.
Yeah, in
That's what we say in English. The chamber of Congress.
Oh yeah? Ah, okay. So we call it Cámara, and then how do you say Senate in Spanish?
As in the Senate or a senator?
No, the Senate.
I don't know.
Senado.
Senado.
So in Puerto Rico they call it, when they're talking about, let's say, our Congress, we call it Cámara y Senado.
Okay.
So yeah.
Chamber.
Do
All
you
right.
have any words for me?
Oh, I have so many words for you, Carla. You won't even believe it. Oh no. Well, I feel like some of the words just slipped from my mind, but let's start with how do you say election, first of all?
Election? Only one.
Yeah, election.
Elección.
Elección. Okay. I guess, how do you say governor?
Governor is Gobernador.
Okay. And, I mean, we said senator,
Mm-hmm. Senador.
Senador. I was going to say senador. I was going to add a couple of T's into that one. Okay. And then I guess, how do you say... Is there a word, when you guys say veto, is there a word for that, veto?
What's that?
A veto is when a president can like cancel a bill or like stop a bill. That word has always bugged me out.
I'm sure there's a word for that, but I don't know it.
Okay. Is there a Spanish word for collusion? Is there a Spanish word for investigation?
Yes.
What?
Investigación.
Oh my God, that took you a while. That one took you a while. Wow. We were talking about a temple. What's the Spanish word for temple?
Templo.
Templo. All right. All right, I think that's it. That's all the Spanish I got for now.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you so much for teaching me so much
Thank
Spanish,
you.
Carla.
I've learned a lot.
All right, another episode in the bag.
Yes.
So much Spanish to be learned. So much voting.
Too much.
So much art talks.
Politicus.
All right, so next episode, I'm going to talk a little bit more about maybe another museum. I'm going to give you guys another museum to look into if you come to New York. You want to see some museums. Carla, what are you going to talk about next episode?
I'm going to talk about the migrant caravan that is coming up north from Central America.
That hostile horde of invaders?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Gonna invade us like zombies. Gonna spread zombies, disease, and we're gonna go and die and all that shit.
All right. See you guys then.